One of the greatest emotional traps in life is the desire to control how everybody sees you. Most people do not realize how much of their energy is wasted trying to manage opinions. They spend years attempting to look perfect, sound perfect, explain themselves perfectly, and defend themselves perfectly. But the painful truth is this: no matter how good your heart is, there will always be someone determined to misunderstand you. And when a narcissist enters your life, this reality becomes even more obvious. A narcissist understands the psychology of public perception. They know that people are often more emotionally influenced than logically informed. So instead of dealing with truth privately, they create emotional stories publicly. They spread confusion carefully. They present themselves as victims convincingly. They speak with confidence, and many people mistake confidence for honesty. Suddenly, people who never asked for your side begin forming opinions about your character. This is where many people make the biggest mistake of their lives. They panic. They become desperate to fix everybody's perception. They start calling people endlessly, sending long explanations, defending every rumor, correcting every lie, and emotionally exhausting themselves trying to regain approval. But what they fail to understand is that the narcissist wants exactly that reaction. They want your focus trapped in emotional chaos. You must understand something powerful. The moment you become addicted to defending your image, you surrender control of your peace, because now your emotional stability depends on what other people think about you. And that is a dangerous way to live. There are people who cannot sleep because somebody misunderstood them. There are people who lose confidence because gossip spread about them. There are people who abandon their dreams because public criticism wounded them deeply. But mature people understand a truth that changes everything. Your identity cannot be built on human opinion because human opinion changes constantly. One day people praise you. The next day they question you. One moment they celebrate you. The next moment they criticize you. If your confidence depends on applause, then criticism will destroy you. This is why emotionally strong people do not build their self-worth on public acceptance. They build it on inner conviction. When a narcissist turns people against you, you must resist the urge to fight every battle. Not every accusation deserves your response. Not every misunderstanding deserves your emotional energy. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is step back and allow people the freedom to think whatever they choose while you continue protecting your peace. That is difficult because most people are emotionally trained to seek validation. From childhood, many people learn to associate approval with worthiness. They fear rejection because rejection feels like personal failure. But wisdom teaches you that disagreement does not erase your value. Misunderstanding does not cancel your identity. False narratives do not redefine your purpose. The narcissist hopes you will become obsessed with repairing your reputation because distraction weakens you. The more emotionally reactive you become, the less focused you are on your healing, your goals, your future, and your growth. You begin living defensively instead of purposefully. And here is something many people never think about. People who truly know your character usually do not need dramatic explanations. Consistency speaks louder than panic. Time reveals truth more effectively than emotional arguments ever could. A calm person with integrity eventually exposes a manipulative person without even trying. That does not mean you remain silent forever in every situation. Wisdom knows when to speak and when to walk away. But many battles are won through emotional restraint, not emotional warfare. There is strength in refusing to perform for an audience that already chose misunderstanding. You must also realize that some people enjoy gossip because it distracts them from confronting their own lives. Some people are entertained by drama. Others are easily manipulated because they only listen to the loudest voice in the room. You cannot spend your life trying to control unstable opinions. That is emotional slavery. Freedom begins when you stop needing universal approval to feel valuable. The truth is, some people will believe lies about you simply because the lies are more exciting than the truth. Some people will distance themselves without asking questions. Some people will judge you unfairly. But if every misunderstanding breaks your spirit, you will spend your entire life emotionally controlled by crowds. Strong people learn how to remain centered even when they are misjudged. They continue building. They continue growing. They continue improving quietly. They do not abandon their purpose every time criticism appears. And this is the part most people never think about. Trying to control everybody's opinion often delays your destiny more than the narcissist ever could. Because while you are chasing explanations, life continues moving. Opportunities continue passing. Growth continues waiting. Healing continues calling your name. Stop sacrificing your future trying to manage opinions you were never meant to control. Your assignment is not to force everybody to understand you. Your assignment is to remain true to yourself even when misunderstanding surrounds you. Because eventually people with wisdom recognize consistency, character, peace, and integrity. And even if some never do, you must never hand strangers the power to define your worth. The day you stop needing everyone's approval is the day manipulation begins losing its control over your life. One of the greatest mistakes people make after being targeted by a narcissist is failing to recognize the true purpose behind the smear campaign. They think the narcissist is only trying to destroy their reputation, but the deeper objective is much more dangerous than that. The narcissist wants to distract you from your purpose. They want to pull your focus away from your growth, your calling, your peace, your goals, and your future. Because once your attention becomes consumed with defending yourself, you slowly stop building your life. This is why many intelligent, gifted, and emotionally strong people suddenly become stuck after narcissistic betrayal. Not because the lies were powerful, but because the distraction became powerful. Their energy becomes trapped in endless emotional warfare. Every day becomes about monitoring who believes the rumors, who changed toward them, who stopped supporting them, or who unfollowed them. Without realizing it, the narcissist successfully hijacks their mental space. And you must understand something important. Whatever controls your focus eventually controls your direction. The narcissist knows they may not be able to completely destroy your destiny, but if they can distract you long enough, they can delay it. They understand that emotionally exhausted people struggle to create, struggle to think clearly, struggle to remain disciplined, and struggle to pursue purpose with confidence. That is why they create chaos around your life. Chaos weakens concentration. Confusion weakens momentum. Emotional exhaustion weakens vision. Many people never think about this because they assume the battle is external. They think the greatest danger is what people are saying about them. No, the greatest danger is what the situation is doing inside of them. The real attack is against your emotional stability, your confidence, your clarity, and your consistency. Because once those things are shaken, you begin abandoning the very habits and routines that were producing growth in your life. You stop creating. You stop dreaming. You stop planning. You stop taking care of yourself. You stop pursuing your goals. You stop believing in your future. And suddenly your life becomes centered around surviving emotional attacks instead of fulfilling purpose. That is exactly what the narcissist wants. A distracted person becomes easier to defeat than a weak person, because a focused person can recover from pain, but a distracted person slowly loses direction altogether. This is why you must guard your attention with wisdom. Your attention is spiritual currency. Whatever receives your consistent focus receives your energy, emotions, and life force. If the narcissist can dominate your thoughts all day, they are still controlling your life even after separation. Some people physically leave narcissistic relationships, but mentally they remain imprisoned for years. Every conversation revolves around the narcissist. Every emotion connects back to the narcissist. Every decision is influenced by the narcissist. That is not freedom. That is psychological occupation. Healing begins the moment you stop making the narcissist the center of your emotional universe. And this is difficult because betrayal naturally creates emotional pain. Human beings desire justice. We want to be understood. We want people to know the truth. We want fairness. But maturity teaches you that not every misunderstanding must become your lifelong assignment. Some battles steal more from you than they are worth. There are people who spend years trying to clear their reputation while neglecting their actual destiny. They become investigators instead of visionaries. They become defenders instead of builders. They become emotionally addicted to proving themselves. Meanwhile, time continues moving forward. You cannot afford to give years of your life to confusion. Your purpose is too valuable for that. Your future is too important for that. And your peace is too sacred for that. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is redirect your energy back into your own development. Instead of obsessing over who believes the lies, become stronger, become wiser. Become healthier emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially. Continue building the life that manipulation tried to interrupt. Because one of the greatest forms of revenge is progress. Not toxic revenge, not public revenge, not emotional revenge, but silent progress. There is something powerful about refusing to allow pain to turn you into a bitter person. There is something powerful about continuing your journey while chaos tries to pull you backward. That kind of discipline frustrates narcissists because they expected your life to collapse without their validation or control. Never forget this: your destiny existed before the smear campaign began. Your purpose did not disappear because somebody lied about you. Your value did not decrease because somebody misunderstood you. And your future does not need permission from public opinion to exist. People who remain focused eventually outgrow the season that once tried to destroy them. While others stay trapped in gossip, bitterness, and emotional confusion, focused individuals continue evolving. They continue learning. They continue growing. They continue walking toward purpose with quiet determination. So when a narcissist turns people against you, do not lose your direction trying to defend yourself from every voice. Ask yourself a deeper question. What is this distraction trying to pull me away from? Because once you recognize that the real battle is over your focus, you begin protecting your mind differently. You stop feeding chaos with endless attention. You stop chasing approval. You stop interrupting your growth for temporary emotional battles. And that is when your real power begins to return. One of the greatest mistakes people make when a narcissist turns others against them is believing they must immediately defend their reputation at all costs. The moment they hear rumors spreading, they panic emotionally. They start calling people, sending long messages, explaining every detail, trying desperately to clear misunderstandings before they grow larger. But what most people never realize is that this emotional urgency often creates deeper exhaustion instead of peace. The narcissist understands human psychology very well. They know that if they can provoke you into constant defense mode, they can drain your energy, distract your focus, and destabilize your emotions. That is why protecting your peace becomes more important than protecting your image. Your peace is your internal stability. It is your ability to think clearly while chaos surrounds you. It is your ability to sleep at night without being consumed by bitterness. It is your ability to remain emotionally balanced while false accusations move through social circles. And once you lose that peace, you begin operating from emotional survival instead of wisdom. A person without peace becomes reactive. They become desperate for validation. They start measuring their worth by how many people still support them. That is a dangerous place to live because your identity was never designed to depend on public opinion. Many people do not understand that some battles are designed to emotionally bait you. The narcissist wants you frustrated. They want you angry. They want you emotionally explosive because emotional instability makes you easier to discredit. Once you begin reacting impulsively, people no longer focus on the manipulation. They focus on your reaction. Suddenly the conversation shifts from the narcissist's behavior to your emotional response. That is why emotional discipline is so powerful during betrayal. Peace is not weakness. Peace is controlled strength. There are moments in life where silence protects you more than explanation. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you understand that some people are committed to misunderstanding you no matter how clearly you speak. Wisdom teaches you that not every accusation deserves your emotional energy. Some people are not looking for truth. They are looking for drama. And if you spend your life trying to correct every false opinion, you will become emotionally exhausted, chasing approval that was never sincere to begin with. Protecting your peace means learning how to emotionally detach from unnecessary battles. It means refusing to let gossip become the center of your life. It means waking up each morning focused on growth instead of revenge. Too many people allow betrayal to consume their identity. Their entire life becomes centered around proving someone wrong. But healing cannot happen while your mind remains trapped in constant emotional warfare. You cannot build a meaningful future while spending all your energy revisiting painful conversations and defending yourself before every audience. Sometimes the most powerful response is continuing to live with dignity while others expect you to collapse. There is strength in composure. There is strength in refusing to become bitter. Narcissists often expect their victims to become emotionally broken, unstable, angry, and self-destructive. They expect you to lose control publicly, but when you remain calm, focused, and emotionally grounded, you interrupt the narrative they tried to create about you. You must also understand that protecting your peace may require distance. Some environments become emotionally toxic once manipulation spreads through them. Not every room deserves continued access to your energy. There are moments when walking away quietly is healthier than staying somewhere you are constantly forced to defend your existence. That does not mean you are defeated. It means you are wise enough to value your mental well-being over unnecessary conflict. Peace also requires self-awareness. Betrayal has a way of awakening insecurities if you are not careful. When people suddenly turn against you, the temptation is to internalize their rejection and begin questioning your worth. But mature people learn to separate lies from identity. Just because somebody spreads false narratives about you does not mean those narratives define you. Other people's opinions cannot rewrite your value unless you emotionally surrender your self-worth to them. Another important truth is this: peace allows clarity. When emotions calm down, discernment becomes stronger. You begin recognizing who genuinely cares about you and who was only connected to you superficially. Hard seasons expose weak foundations in relationships. And while that realization may hurt, it also protects your future. Some people were never loyal to your heart. They were only loyal to convenience, appearances, or temporary benefit. Painful experiences reveal these truths clearly. Protecting your peace means giving yourself permission to stop carrying emotional burdens that were never yours to carry. You are not responsible for controlling every rumor. You are not responsible for forcing maturity into immature minds. You are not responsible for making everybody understand your intentions. Your responsibility is to remain aligned with truth, integrity, discipline, and growth. Because at the end of the day, a peaceful mind is far more valuable than temporary public approval. Reputation can be manipulated temporarily, but inner peace gives you the strength to survive storms without losing yourself. And people who learn how to protect their peace during betrayal develop a level of emotional strength that manipulation can no longer control. One of the greatest mistakes people make when they are being attacked, misunderstood, or falsely accused is believing they must force truth to be recognized immediately. They panic when people begin believing the narcissist. They become desperate to defend every accusation, correct every rumor, and expose every lie. But wisdom understands something emotion often forgets. Truth has patience. Lies survive on urgency, but truth survives on consistency. When a narcissist turns people against you, they are usually operating through emotional speed. They spread stories quickly because manipulation works best before people have time to observe patterns. They know human beings are emotional creatures. Many people react to presentation before they examine evidence. That is why narcissists often appear convincing in the beginning. They know how to sound wounded, how to sound innocent, how to sound believable. They study emotional reactions like an actor studies a script. But what many people never think about is this: manipulation has an expiration date. A person can perform goodness temporarily, but character eventually leaks through behavior. Time has a way of exposing inconsistencies that emotions initially overlook. And this is why patience becomes one of the most powerful forms of strength when dealing with narcissistic attacks. You must stop believing that immediate vindication is necessary for your survival. Sometimes your greatest victory is remaining stable while lies are circulating. Most people cannot do this because they are emotionally addicted to approval. The moment they feel misunderstood, they feel unsafe. The moment somebody questions their character, they feel the need to prove themselves instantly. But mature people understand that constantly defending yourself can actually weaken your position. Why? Because desperation often looks like guilt to people who are watching from the outside. This is why calmness is powerful. A narcissist expects you to become emotionally chaotic. They expect you to chase people. They expect long emotional messages, public arguments, defensive speeches, angry reactions, and desperate explanations. Why? Because once you lose emotional control, attention shifts away from their manipulation and onto your reaction. Never forget this: reactive people are easy to manipulate. That is why emotional discipline frustrates narcissists more than emotional outbursts. When you remain composed, focused, and patient, you interrupt the chaos they were hoping to create. Now understand this carefully. Patience does not mean weakness. It does not mean pretending the pain does not exist. It does not mean you enjoy being misunderstood. It means you trust that truth does not need panic to survive. Look at life carefully. People eventually reveal themselves through repeated behavior. A narcissist can fool some people for a season, but maintaining false perfection becomes exhausting over time. Eventually, the same manipulation they used against you begins appearing elsewhere. The same blame shifting, the same emotional control, the same victim performance, the same dishonesty. Patterns repeat because character repeats. And this is where time becomes your silent ally. While the narcissist is busy managing appearances, you should be busy strengthening your life. Build your peace, build your wisdom, build your emotional health, build your future. Because one day the people who doubted you may quietly begin noticing things they ignored before. They may notice the contradictions. They may notice the manipulation. They may notice the instability. They may notice that every former relationship of the narcissist ended with another villain. And slowly truth begins speaking for itself without you forcing it. But many people sabotage this process because they cannot tolerate temporary misunderstanding. They keep reopening wounds, trying to convince people who already chose sides emotionally. Listen carefully. Not every misunderstanding requires a courtroom defense. Some battles are won through endurance, not argument. There are moments in life where your silence will protect you more than your explanations. Because people committed to misunderstanding you rarely listen with honesty anyway. They listen for evidence that confirms what they already decided to believe. So stop exhausting yourself trying to control everybody's perception of you. You cannot micromanage human opinion. You cannot force maturity into emotionally immature people. And you cannot heal while constantly performing emotional defense. Instead, allow time to do what emotional debates cannot accomplish. Time reveals motives. Time reveals patterns. Time reveals integrity. Time reveals consistency. And most importantly, time reveals who was acting and who was authentic. One thing you must also understand is that seasons of false accusation often develop inner strength you would have never built otherwise. When people misunderstand you, you are forced to discover whether your identity depends on public applause or internal conviction. That is a painful lesson, but it is a necessary one. Because if your confidence depends entirely on other people agreeing with you, manipulation will always control your emotions. But when your identity becomes rooted in truth, purpose, and self-awareness, you stop collapsing every time somebody misjudges you. You begin understanding that some people will only understand your value after distance, time, and repeated disappointment expose what you were trying to warn them about. And that realization changes you. You stop chasing validation. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop begging people to see your heart. You become more focused on living truthfully than proving truthfully. That is maturity. The narcissist survives through image management, but strong people survive through character, and character always outlives performance. So if you are in a season where lies are spreading, where people are doubting you, where relationships feel strained because of manipulation, remember this: your responsibility is not to force everybody to believe you immediately. Your responsibility is to remain grounded, disciplined, wise, and emotionally whole while time reveals what emotions currently cannot see. Because eventually masks become heavy, pretending becomes exhausting. And truth, no matter how delayed, has a way of standing in the light without needing permission from anybody. One of the greatest mistakes people make after being targeted by a narcissist is believing they must match the narcissist's energy in order to survive. They think they must become louder, more aggressive, more defensive, and more emotionally dramatic to protect themselves. But that is exactly the trap. Narcissists thrive in emotional chaos because chaos gives them control. The moment you abandon your composure, you enter their environment. And in their environment, confusion becomes power. This is why quiet strength becomes one of the most dangerous responses a person can develop. Quiet strength does not mean weakness. It does not mean you have no feelings. It does not mean the betrayal did not hurt you. It means you refuse to allow pain to turn you into a public performance. It means you choose emotional maturity over emotional exhibition. And in a world where many people react instantly to everything, the person who remains centered becomes unforgettable. You must understand that narcissists are performers. Much of what they do is designed for an audience. Their anger is often theatrical. Their victimhood is strategic. Their storytelling is selective. Their tears can be manipulative. Their charm can be calculated. They understand the psychology of appearances. They know how to create scenes that emotionally influence people before facts are ever examined. That is why they often appear powerful in the beginning. Loud people usually control the room temporarily. Dramatic people usually attract attention quickly. But attention is not the same as respect. Noise is not the same as strength. Performance is not the same as character. Quiet strength operates differently. Quiet strength focuses on consistency instead of image. While the narcissist is busy managing opinions, you must become busy managing your growth. While they spend hours talking about you, you spend hours building yourself. While they create emotional storms, you create emotional stability. And eventually, emotionally healthy people begin noticing the difference. The hardest part is that quiet strength rarely receives immediate reward. In fact, during the early stages, it may feel like silence is making you lose. You may watch people believe lies. You may see relationships shift. You may feel misunderstood and isolated. And your emotions will tempt you to defend yourself every hour of the day. But wisdom understands timing. Not every battle deserves your voice. Some battles deserve your discipline. Because when you constantly explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you slowly lose your emotional balance. Your life becomes consumed by proving instead of progressing. You wake up thinking about the accusations. You sleep thinking about the betrayal. Your creativity dies. Your peace disappears. Your focus weakens. And that distraction is exactly what the narcissist wanted. Never allow someone else's dysfunction to become your full-time occupation. There is something powerful about a person who continues building their life while being attacked unfairly. That kind of discipline confuses manipulative people because they expected collapse. They expected emotional destruction. They expected public retaliation. But instead they see calmness. They see focus. They see maturity. And nothing frustrates toxic people more than realizing they can no longer emotionally control you. Quiet strength also protects your dignity. Many people permanently damage their reputation not because of what was said about them, but because of how they reacted afterward. Pain pushed them into reckless words, emotional outbursts, desperate behavior, online wars, and constant bitterness. In trying to defend themselves, they unintentionally destroyed their own peace. This is why self-control is one of the highest forms of power. Anybody can react. Few people can remain disciplined under pressure. And that discipline is what separates emotionally strong people from emotionally manipulated people. You must also remember that people are always observing longer than you think. Even when they say nothing, they are watching patterns. They are watching how you respond under stress. They are watching whether your energy becomes toxic or grounded. They are watching whether you remain authentic or become consumed by revenge. And over time, consistent behavior reveals truth more effectively than emotional arguments ever could. This is why your responsibility is not to win every public opinion battle. Your responsibility is to remain aligned with your values even during betrayal. Continue improving yourself. Continue protecting your routines. Continue developing wisdom. Continue healing privately. Continue walking with integrity. Continue speaking with maturity. And continue refusing to let hatred reshape your personality. One of the most powerful things you can do after being targeted by a narcissist is succeed quietly. Not to prove something to them, but to reclaim your own life. Go back to your goals. Rebuild your confidence. Strengthen your mind. Invest in your purpose. Learn new skills. Take care of your health. Develop spiritual stability. Create a future so meaningful that eventually the chaos becomes a small chapter instead of your entire story. Because your life is too important to be emotionally chained to people committed to misunderstanding you. And eventually, something incredible happens. The same silence that once felt painful becomes peace. The same isolation that once felt lonely becomes clarity. The same betrayal that once broke your heart becomes the experience that strengthened your discernment forever. That is the power of quiet strength. It transforms suffering into stability, pressure into wisdom, and pain into personal growth. One of the greatest dangers of dealing with a narcissist is not the lies they spread about you. The greatest danger is slowly losing your own sense of identity while trying to survive their manipulation. Many people spend so much time defending themselves that they forget who they were before the attack even started. They become emotionally exhausted, mentally confused, spiritually drained, and deeply insecure because the narcissist's goal was never simply to hurt your reputation. Their goal was to disconnect you from yourself. This is why becoming grounded in your identity is one of the most powerful things you will ever do. When you truly know who you are, lies become weaker, accusations become lighter, rejection becomes less destructive. Why? Because your identity is no longer dependent on external approval. A person who knows themselves cannot easily be controlled by public opinion. Narcissists survive by creating emotional instability around you. They study your insecurities. They observe your emotional triggers. They pay attention to the areas where you seek validation. Then they attack those exact places. If your self-worth depends on people praising you, they will turn people against you. If your confidence depends on being understood, they will deliberately misrepresent you. If your peace depends on acceptance, they will create rejection around you. They know that insecure people are easier to manipulate. That is why inner stability becomes your protection. You must stop allowing people to define your value for you. The opinions of unstable people cannot become the foundation of your identity. If somebody can manipulate how people see you overnight, then those people were never deeply connected to your truth in the first place. Mature individuals do not abandon people based on gossip. They observe patterns, seek understanding, and use wisdom before making conclusions. But many people panic when others begin distancing themselves. They start over-explaining. They start chasing validation. They start abandoning their dignity just to repair their image. And this is exactly where narcissists gain power over them. Because once you become desperate for approval, you become emotionally dependent on the very people who misunderstand you. Never hand your emotional identity to a crowd. Crowds are unstable. Public opinion changes constantly. One day people celebrate you and the next day they criticize you. If your confidence rises and falls based on human approval, you will never experience lasting peace. This is why grounded people are dangerous to manipulators. They cannot be emotionally controlled through rejection because they already know their worth internally. You must learn how to validate yourself without becoming arrogant. There is a difference between confidence and pride. Pride says, I am better than everyone. Confidence says, I know who I am even if everyone misunderstands me. Confidence remains steady in chaos. Confidence does not beg to be believed. Confidence does not perform for acceptance. Confidence remains calm because identity is already settled internally. Many people think strength means fighting every accusation. No, real strength is remaining emotionally stable while false narratives surround you. Real strength is refusing to become bitter after betrayal. Real strength is maintaining your character while others attack your name. Anybody can remain kind when life is easy, but it takes deep maturity to remain disciplined when you are being misjudged. And understand this carefully, when a narcissist turns people against you, it often awakens hidden wounds within you. Suddenly, childhood rejection resurfaces. Old insecurities return. Fear of abandonment intensifies. The pain feels larger than the situation itself because unresolved emotional wounds are being touched. This is why healing becomes necessary. You cannot become grounded in your identity while ignoring your emotional damage. Take time to rebuild yourself privately. Spend time understanding your values. Reconnect with your purpose. Strengthen your relationship with your own mind. Learn emotional discipline. Protect your spiritual and mental health. Stop defining yourself by temporary opinions. Because when you truly become grounded internally, something powerful happens. Manipulation stops working the same way against you. The narcissist expects emotional collapse. They expect panic. They expect desperation. They expect you to chase people for validation. But when you remain centered, calm, and emotionally aware, their tactics lose effectiveness. Your peace becomes untouchable because it is no longer controlled externally. And here's something most people never realize. The people who survive smear campaigns with dignity are usually the ones who discover their real strength afterward. Why? Because pressure reveals identity. Hard seasons force you to ask yourself difficult questions. Who are you when nobody applauds you? Who are you when people misunderstand you? Who are you when support disappears? Who are you when lies surround your name? The answer to those questions reveals your true foundation. Do not fear being misunderstood. Fear abandoning yourself in the process of trying to be understood. Because once you lose yourself emotionally, you begin living according to the opinions of others instead of the truth within you. There will always be people who believe lies. There will always be people who judge unfairly. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions. But grounded individuals understand something powerful. Misunderstanding does not erase identity. The sun remains the sun even when clouds hide it. And in the same way, your worth remains valuable even when people fail to see it temporarily. So stand firm in who you are. Do not shrink yourself to fit people's distorted perceptions. Do not become emotionally addicted to proving your innocence. Do not sacrifice your peace trying to manage every opinion. Continue growing quietly. Continue healing deeply. Continue living truthfully. Because people who are rooted internally cannot easily be destroyed externally.